A night of drones stretched from southern Russia to the outskirts of Moscow. Tankers were struck in the Strait of Hormuz, and diplomats tried to rescue a Gaza plan whose essential steps remain disputed. Across these stories, the same problem kept returning. Weapons can cross borders quickly, while protection and diplomacy depend on slower systems of attribution, verification, and trust. So in this video, we're going to ask, how far did this week's attacks reach? Why is protection becoming harder and more expensive? And can reciprocal diplomacy work when every side wants the other to move first? Never miss an episode. Hit subscribe, ring the bell, and stay in the loop. The week's largest attack unfolded overnight into August 16th, when Ukraine launched an exceptional aerial assault across Russia. Russia's defense ministry claimed that 822 drones were destroyed nationwide, while Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin said approximately 600 were headed toward the capital, and about one-third were destroyed over Moscow region. Those precise counts remain Russian assertions, but regional authorities reported 6 deaths, 5 across 3 towns in Rostov and 1 in Moscow region, where an 83-year-old man was killed when a drone struck his home. Homes and a railway station were damaged, while a wild berries warehouse in Podolsk caught fire. The scale fits an escalating pattern even if the exact number of aircraft remains uncertain. Russia claimed 553 interceptions on August 14th and 598 on August 15th, after reporting 475 during another attack 11 days before August 16th. Moscow has also reported more than 400 drones approaching its region on July 20th and more than 430 on July 7th. The practical consequence is immediate. Russia must spread air defenses among its capital, residential areas, transportation links, industrial sites, and military targets rather than concentrating them near the front. That pressure reaches much farther than Moscow, because Ukraine's documented long-range campaign has already struck Ust-Luga more than 800 kilometers away and Nizhnekamsk about 1,200 kilometers away. A Ukrainian attack on a refinery in Tyumen reached more than 2,400 kilometers from the border, demonstrating that energy and industrial facilities deep inside Russia can face direct pressure. Every additional target complicates Russian defense planning, although greater Ukrainian reach also raises the possibility of casualties and disruption far from the battlefield. Inside Ukraine, the week brought a stark measure of what continuing attacks already mean for civilians. The United Nations recorded 3,047 civilian casualties during July, including 437 people killed and 2,610 injured. Those figures translate into sustained pressure on hospitals, emergency crews, displaced families, and communities facing repeated damage, consequences that accumulate even when attention shifts towards spectacular long-range attacks inside Russia. The expanding exchange, therefore, has 2 connected dimensions: greater military reach and a civilian burden that continues long after each individual strike disappears from the news. While drones were reshaping the war's geography, another set of attacks threatened one of the world's most important shipping corridors. ADNOC said 2 company-owned tankers were attacked by drones while crossing the Strait of Hormuz on August 13th, with no injuries reported, while UK maritime trade operations received reports that 2 vessels sustained minor damage. The UAE blamed Iran and characterized the attacks as piracy by the Revolutionary Guard, although UKMTO did not assign responsibility. The UAE then reported another attack involving an ADNOC vessel on August 15th, concerning an incident reportedly occurring the previous day. For shipowners, the immediate question is less about visible damage than the price of accepting another voyage through the strait. War risk insurance during July and August was quoted at between 3% and 10% of a vessel's hull value, an extraordinary cost before fuel, crew, and freight expenses are considered. At a premium of 5% to 10%, insuring a tanker valued at $100 million could add between $5 million and $10 million for one transit. Repeated attacks can therefore raise costs for crews, energy importers, and consumers, even without closing the waterway. Diplomacy offered a possible counterweight in Gaza, where Hamas reaffirmed its conditional acceptance of the Board of Peace's Phase 2 roadmap after an August 16th meeting in Egypt involving Khalil al-Hayya, Jared Kushner, and board personnel. The 15-point plan would transfer transitional civilian government and internal security to the National Committee for the Administration of Gaza, while placing reconstruction under joint supervision by that committee and the board. Hamas has accepted the roadmap and the principle of demilitarization, conditioned on a permanent ceasefire, complete Israeli withdrawal, sustained humanitarian assistance, and the start of reconstruction. The unresolved issue is sequencing, because the roadmap links Palestinian weapons decommissioning with phased Israeli withdrawals rather than placing either process entirely first. Before Phase 2, an international committee representing the United States, Egypt, Qatar, Turkey, the board, and the stabilization force must certify compliance by both sides. The parties then have 14 days to prepare the timetable and implementation mechanisms, while each later phase depends on verified completion of the previous one. Benjamin Netanyahu rejected the document on August 9th and said Israeli forces would not leave the roughly 60% of Gaza they controlled until Hamas was completely disarmed, precisely the order the reciprocal roadmap was designed to avoid. That same tension between retaliation and verified implementation appeared in Lebanon, where Israeli strikes hit Ansar and Deir al-Zarani on August 15th. Lebanese official records reported 11 people killed and 19 injured across the two locations, including 7 deaths at Ansar and 4 at Deir al-Zarani. Israel described one alleged Ansar target as Ali Samir al-Hajj Hassan, whom it identified as a battalion commander in Hezbollah's Radwan force. The strikes increased the human and political cost of renewed escalation, while leaving southern Lebanese communities exposed to a cycle in which every alleged violation can produce another attack. During the week ahead, watch whether the Gaza parties move any closer to an agreed Phase 2 timetable and whether independent certification can unlock the first reciprocal steps. Also watch Gulf insurers after the latest tanker incidents alongside the pace and reach of Ukrainian launches, because reduced attacks would ease pressure quickly, while another concentrated wave would force defenses, diplomacy, and commercial risk calculations to adjust again before next Friday. That's all for today. Your daily shot of the world.